candidates of those on the phone?
As far as I know, Catherine Starkey will be joining on the phone.
Okay, Commissioner Starkey, were you able to call in? Okay, well then it looks like we are limited to those in person. And with the consent, the first consent item, the meeting minutes for January 11, there's 3 of us. I'm just trying to, David, do you know? I don't think we have quorum. I think we need 4 for quorum for this committee.
Cliff did say he would be here, so maybe he's just running a few minutes late.
I am technically not on the policy committee chair. I'm here for the finance, but came early to enjoy the policy committee.
I don't think I've ever been 30 minutes behind
Give me the number. They can't find the number to call in.
Yes, it's 605-313.
Well, we could still,
Hold on, 313.
that's what I was trying to remember. We could still have discussion. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
313-4100,
Okay.
and then they're going to need the code. When you're ready for that.
Hey, Cliff. Good morning.
What's the code?
747.
Be in attendance today.
462.
I'm still on the, no problem, water here, but I'll be in the building in about 7 minutes.
He'll be there.
747-462.
Okay, great. Well, enjoy your drive, and we'll see you in 7 or so minutes. In the meantime, we're glad you called in.
Okay.
Who joined us, please?
Catherine Starkey.
Hi, Commissioner Starkey. Good morning.
Good morning, Catherine.
Morning, everybody.
Okay, we now.
I don't think you heard me. My name is Bill Sanders, Bradenton City Council.
Good
What?
morning, Bill.
Hi. Good morning. Michael is on the line as well.
Hey, Michael. Good morning.
Pat Count.
Good morning, Pat.
Good morning.
I didn't hear Michael say anything.
Good morning, Commissioner Long. I'm here.
Oh, there you go.
He had just said.
Sorry, and I'm just looking up the policy committee members. They're in the phone note. I know we have more than 3, so we have 1, 2, 3. We have 6 members. So
We need 3 then.
yes. So we have a full committee. Yes. With actually no, I'm sorry. We have 5. So with 3. Yep. Once we have, so we will go ahead and hold the meeting minutes until we have Cliff here in person, because then we'll have the necessary number to go ahead and pass the minutes if the committee is inclined to do so. So with that, there was a request this morning to go ahead and hold the resolution over. David, do you want to make any comments about that?
Yeah, I could explain a little bit. So this was a request last month from the board to memorialize the desire for dedicated lanes throughout the 41-mile regional BRT corridor. We drafted this resolution, sent it out in the packet, and after receiving some feedback from several people in the community, to include FDOT, we were cautioned to avoid the perception of predetermining the results of PD&E before the PD&E process played out. And the risk that poses is a potential administrative challenge to the project. So in order to reduce that risk and proceed with the project, we wanted to just remove this item from the agenda and not take it to the board at all.
To start conference recording, press 1. The recording has started.
Okay, great. Are there any questions or comments about the removal of the resolution from the committee agenda this morning?
Madam Chair.
I can only share with the committee that from my perspective in that type of business activity, the appropriate move, we really need to see the results of the PD&E before we take action, so I concur.
Great, thanks, Cliff. Commissioner Long.
I concur.
Well,
I concur, though I think would it be a predetermination to just amend the resolution to indicate that we would if possible, prefer dedicated lanes?
We were advised to not address it at all. And I guess the reason is because the project now is with TBARTA. When the project was in its feasibility plan phase with another organization, we could in fact do a resolution to support fully dedicated lanes. But now that we own the project, we were advised that it could be inappropriate to support any particular outcome of the PD&E before that analysis begins.
Okay, are there?
Because we're supposed to have it before we act. So
No, I get
we
that.
really need that documentation.
I get that, but we're
I'm sorry.
getting a lot of, I just want everyone to be aware, we're getting a lot of pushback on the lack of a, dedicated lane specific project. So,
Now,
as long as-
dedicated lanes certainly will be something that are evaluated during the PD&E process, but to come out as the owner of the project, it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate, as perceived by some, to support that outcome.
Okay.
I would just say it certainly makes the best sense. And I don't push back or not, but I have to say too, I haven't gotten a single word of pushback at all. And I don't think people are even focused on this, but it certainly makes sense for, the study to go forward and whatever is determined, that's what you deal with then.
This is Cliff. It's more of a process issue than it is pushing back on anything or actually embracing anything. We wanted to play out to maximize the potential benefit for funding. So
May I
that's
suggest?
why we're being provided. That's why.
May I suggest that someone, probably David, let our team in Tallahassee know that so that it can be further shared with Senator Brandis, who is expressing some negativity with regard to our BRT Central Avenue line for one of these reasons we're talking about now. So just so you know, I'm just trying to be informative. All right.
Okay, are there any further questions or discussion on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, then we'll go ahead and move on to the website redesign. Michael, we have you, and then is Cindy, are you in? Cindy, great. I know you're here with us in person, so we'll let you all take it away.
Well, good morning, everyone. Michael Case, Principal Planner and Project Manager with TBARTA. Nice to see you all over the live stream this morning. So regarding this item, you recall the board approved a contract with SKQ back in February to design a brand new website for TBARTA. We kicked off the project also in February and worked and have been working quickly with SKQ to review the existing site as a baseline for the kinds of information and functionality we need to provide to the public as a public agency, as well as figure out, exactly what's wrong and what we don't like about the website to ensure the new one has intuitive usability and accessibility. We're prioritizing mobile friendliness as well as aesthetically pleasing design that's both easy to navigate and engaging for users. We do have some specific requirements we need to meet as a special district of the state of Florida. So we're making sure to work with FKQ, and Bryant Miller Olive has provided us some guidance on all of those elements as well. So what we're providing today is a site map to look over, which is included in your packet. I'm sorry, did I hear someone trying to speak?
I don't think so, Michael. You're doing a great job.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure. Sometimes it's hard to tell over the phone.
It always is.
So FKQ provided that site map that's included in your packet, which shows how the site will operate and flow from a user perspective. So you have flowing down from the main menu, your main category items that people will see on the home page. And we're still working on.
Sorry, we have a cell phone going off, but you're good, Michael. We're getting
I
it.
can't get, okay.
There we go. Commissioner Long is popular as always, so we're good now. You can go ahead and continue.
I was going to start speaking to the beat, but
Dancing a little bit for us.
so, we've been working again with FAQ, making sure we have all the right elements in place. We have that site map, which staff has reviewed, and David as well, agreed that, we want to make sure that things are easy to find for the public and that it makes sense. So presently we're working through existing assets and content that needs to be provided for the new site using that site map and identifying areas where new content is needed. So, at this time I'd like to bring in the 2 new TBARTA members you've likely already met this morning that are also deeply involved in this effort, and we'll share some updates with you. The first, Cindy Raskin, our new Director of Commuter Services, has jumped right in with this project. You may recall she was previously the Marketing Director at PSTA, so she has a lot of background working with SKQ because they also designed the PSTA website. The second, before you jump in, Cindy, is Chris Jadek. He's our new Director of Communications, and he is actually, with his expertise, jumped in and is taking the lead on the project as well. So, Cindy, I'm going to turn it over to you, and then Chris, it'd be great if you gave an introduction as well.
Thank you. So Michael pretty much said everything that I wanted to say. I'm Cindy Raskin, your new first ever Director of Commuter Services for TBARTA, and I'm really excited to be leading that team that's going to be sharing commute alternatives with people in the Tampa Bay area. So I was the Marketing Communications Director here at PSTA for the last 4 years, with almost 21 years at PSTA total. So I have a transit background and a communications background. And it was excited to start helping with the website, and then just have Chris come up and introduce himself. He's a project manager, so he's really the guy that's going to be leading the website charge.
All right, thank you. I appreciate just take a couple of minutes just to introduce myself, having a chance to individually go around and say hello. But I am Chris Jadek, I'm the new Director of Communications. And David, I appreciate the opportunity to join the team. Very briefly, my background has been in news media. I've been in the Tampa area for most of the last 20 years. Grew up in Ohio in the Midwest. My wife and I moved here in 1995. I went to work at Fox 13. I was an executive news producer there. We moved up to Louisville, Kentucky in 2001.
Sorry about that.
Usually in the news business, once you leave the area, you don't expect to come back. But fortunately, in 2005, we did come back to the area, and we've stayed here ever since then. I was the news director at ABC Action News. I worked for Richard Salem. You may know him, a Tampa attorney. He does some accessibility work, and of course, he has a big document digitization operation down in Channelside. And then most recently, I worked over Bay News 9. I oversaw Bright House Sports Network. So I have a lot of media connections and some understanding there. I've done some website development along the way, too, for Richard. So along the way, I also did get a master's degree from USF in strategic communication management. So with all that, I hope to bring some new insight over to TBARTA. I won't give you a lot more on the website because, first of all, this is week 2, and everything that Michael said is what I'm inheriting and taking. I'm in the process right now of gathering the content, looking at it, going through it, revising it, and starting to populate that site map just with the content itself. What do we want to say? What do we want that message to be? Now, the one thing I will tell you as somebody from the outside, in looking at the website, which I did, which we currently have, and I think we'd agree, TBARTA has done so much over the years, but so much in a different direction than where we're going right now. And so I think it's important that the message be clear as to where we're going, so it is, much like Michael said, user-friendly and accessible and can really be a tool. The other thing I'd add is, and in this whole process, as Michael says, he's handing it off to me, I work very collaboratively. One thing that David asked when I first came here, says, what's your biggest challenge going to be? And I said, it's the lack of that institutional knowledge. I've not worked in transit and transportation, and so I fully recognize that. So while I'm heading up this project, I'm working very closely with Michael and David and Cindy and our entire team, and I'll make recommendations as to what we should put on the website. Certainly there are requirements for accessibility and special districts that we have to make sure that we're following, and we're going to make sure we do that. But everything we do is not going to be individually done by me. It's going to be done as a team. and we're going to sign off on it every step of the way and make sure the board is certainly fully realizes what we're doing every step of the way too. So I look forward to talking to you a little bit more. I won't say any more than that right now, except the process is underway, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you. Thank you.
Great. Are there any questions?
I just want to make sure that the information that's on there is accurate and reflects what's going on today, as well as has contact information in there, because I just went to it a couple of times and stopped going because it was so full of nothing I wanted to know.
It's hard to find what you want to find. Even Cindy and I were looking for some information today as we continue the content process, and I fully agree. It's got to be very usable and have the right information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
With that, I guess, Michael, do you have any additional comments about the website and where it's going?
Well, like Chris said, we're in the middle of reviewing all the content right now and echoing Commissioner Long's comment as well, making sure all the information is accurate and we're presenting valuable information to the public, not just populating a website with everything that's going on in the region. So, we want to make sure that when people visit the website, they find exactly what they need. And in some cases, finding something that they didn't know they needed to know about transportation in Tampa Bay as well. So, we're going to be highlighting partner projects. Obviously, we've got some very big efforts going on with the Regional Transit Development Plan and Vision 2030 and the Catalyst PD&E coming up that we want to make the focal points of what we're doing, in addition to the very important commuter services program as well. So as this project continues to move forward, and Chris, Cindy, and I are all working very hard on making sure all the content is up to date and we have all the essential assets in place, we'll plan to bring this back to you, make this possibly a standing item on the agenda, give you updates on where exactly we are with the design, and continue to give you the opportunity to weigh in on where we might need to go and any tweaks we might need to make prior to the site going live.
Great. I think that's exactly what this committee is looking for.
Starkey?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I was wondering if we might consider also being a place where if people are wondering what is BRT, that there might be some links to BRTs around the world that are up and running.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. We'll work on that content, and it's actually something we're scoped to do right now in the PD&E project, which you're going to hear with the Finance Committee. So certainly, I couldn't agree more. Something we want to highlight on some best practices example of that gold standard BRT around the world.
Great. Are there any additional comments or questions for the website team? Hearing none, then we'll go ahead and recognize Debbie Leos for the travel and expense reimbursement policies information item.
Thank you so much. A little background on this, because I know that this committee has asked to have policies come forward more as one cohesive group of policies. However, we'll be discussing this at Finance Committee. There was an employee, what the impetus of this was, there was an employee who had requested reimbursement of funds that that person had expended on their own personal credit card and then sought reimbursement. And it goes back for actually to 2016, some of the expenditures. So TBARTA at the time did not have any expense reimbursement policies. So we felt, well, we may wait to bring forward a whole group of policies on employee handbook, etc. I think it's important to put this forth now. And what this is this month is an information item that covers both the travel reimbursement policy and expense reimbursement or request for check policy, which I will hand out to you, that was not included in the packet. And I think it's important to have this in place so we don't have a repeat of that. Essentially what we're looking to do is ask employees to seek reimbursement 30 days after the expenses have been incurred. That way we're reporting the expenses in a timely manner. We can turn around the expenditures back to that person in a timely manner. And it's accurately reflecting what is happening at TBARTA. So while it may be common sense to do this, it's always great to have it in writing. That way we can enforce things that we've put forth in a policy. So this month, it's information. I would ask that you take a look at this. I would take any suggestions or questions during the course of the month. And then next month, we'll bring this back as an action item for you to work on.
Perfect. And I do think one comment that I will make is that I know that specifically when Dave and I talked about this, and I think this is a sentiment of the board, that while we do think a comprehensive, the review could be, a comprehensive, the manual could be helpful, that certainly if there are other policies that are quote unquote an emergency or need to be escalated, then certainly we want to have those brought forth as needed this year. With that comment, are there any other comments or questions for Debbie?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Long.
No, and I want to extend a personal thank you to Debbie for putting this together, because I am a commissioner that represents the entire county, so I'm driving all the time to various board meetings that I sit on. But this is a large regional board, and when we're asked to go outside of our county, over and over again to the other regions of our area, our legislative area, then I think it's appropriate to be able to submit mileage reimbursement and maybe even lunch expense if we're down there for a whole day, or up there for a whole day, or over there for a whole day, whatever it happens to be. So with that said, I'd like to clarify one point you made. You said you'd like reimbursements for those kind of things within 30 days or after 30 days?
No, within 30 days.
I thought
of the
that's what you
expense.
meant. Yeah.
And then Commissioner Long, is that the travel that you're addressing? Is that something that you're going to address today in the Finance Committee, or is that something you want the Policy Committee to work on? Or
Well, I will now that she's brought it here.
okay.
Yeah, that's part of this, and generally for any travel, it'll come under a per diem, what's allowed. That way we don't have to worry about receipts,
Correct.
et cetera. It becomes just a per diem. So if you're gone a portion of the day, you won't get reimbursed for the whole day. There's a little formula that has breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you're gone for the whole day and there's a per diem amount, I'll make this up, of $80 a day, I don't care if you have an $80 breakfast and you have nothing the rest of the day. It just is a per diem for that whole time period. But the importance is the timeliness of the information.
Great. For the budget. Are there any other questions or discussion for this agenda item?
It's written that, I have one quick question.
Please.
It's written that if it's not within 30 days, it's not refundable, period. Is there no appeal process at all, or way to access the board if something weird happened and it came in the 31st day for an employee?
I think this is why, it's a guideline. What, if someone is consistently late in putting things in, that becomes a disciplinary action for Mr. Green to look at. Certainly the board, we have some leeway with. We understand you're very busy people, but I would expect things to come in even as close as possible.
I would too. I agree with the policy. Most policies like this for employees have some way for them to rectify something they've overlooked, as long as it's done timely and not often.
But this, and just so I understand, this is for discussion here, but this policy will actually be discussed and voted on in finance.
It'll be discussed and voted on in policy next month because it's a policy.
Okay, got it.
What's going to be discussed at the Finance Committee is a specific instance that occurred.
Okay, that's where I was confused. So what I was thinking is that we could leave this, or we might even be able to work in a language that said, unless, reasonable, next month we actually vote on it, unless, reasonable, my brain is fried today, but excuse isn't the word I'm looking for, but.
We should just work into the policy an ability for an employee that's not continuously mismanaging the policy.
Yes, there's a good reason for it.
If it was overlooked and appealed properly to our staff.
Correct.
It could be considered.
That's a much more eloquent way of saying what my brain was trying to think. So, but we could go ahead and deal with that language, I think, in the interim, and propose it next month when we actually vote on it, so.
Okay.
Great.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, are there any other than discussion items or question for this agenda item? Okay, then before I ask if there's any other business, I will say that the other agenda item for this morning originally was an amendment to the bylaws of TBARTA that specifically dealt with the attendance of TBARTA board members. Staff did work very hard on that as we requested. I did request, though, that it went under the future meeting subjects when David and I were reviewing the agenda, simply because, as we know, the legislature is still meeting and looking at language regarding whether TBARTA board members would be able to attend meetings by phone. I think that whether that is passed or not will have a significant impact on where we may want to go with this agenda item, and so I'm glad we have it teed up for our next policy meeting when it's appropriate to bring it forward, but I think it would best be discussed once the legislature has concluded its business. So, like I said, that we know exactly how that may impact this amendment.
I agree.
Okay, great. I hear agreement from Commissioner Long. I see nodding. Are there any questions or discussion about delaying that agenda item to a future policy committee meeting? Hearing none, then, is there any other business for the policy committee to consider this morning?
Madam Chair, I think you were going to vote on minutes now.
Oh, thank you. See, that's why we have our brilliant attorney in the morning. So here in the morning. So now that we do, I even circled it, just forgot to come back. So now that we have Cliff in the room, we do have a quorum to go ahead and vote on our January 11, 2019 meeting minutes that are attached behind the agenda. Is there discussion or a motion on those proposed minutes?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, I've heard a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are passed. Thank you, Counselor. Is there any other business to be brought before the policy committee this morning? Okay, with that, all right, we are adjourning, and you have a 180-second break before the finance committee meeting if you are staying for that starts at 10 a.m.
180 seconds.
Just sounds longer than 3 minutes, right? So.